Someone once said to me, go to Croatia, to the lands of Podravina. Let nature guide you. With a little luck, you might discover how it turns peasants into artists. I've only just crossed the border from Hungary and reached the remote lands of northern Croatia when I am welcomed by the sound of the cimbalom. This music is fascinating, like a good omen, and I accept the invitation. I'm curious to see how nature manages to turn peasants into artists. I came here because it is the birthplace of one of the most amazing naive art movements in the world. Why was that? That's what I'm trying to find out. Not far from the river Drava, which serves as the frontier between Hungary and Croatia, I decide to stop in a traditional little village called Hlebine. Gradually, I approach the locals. In this very rural region, time goes by slowly, following the rhythm of a simple daily existence. When the sewing machines spring back into life, it's a good sign. Party preparations are underway. The smell of hot coffee and a chat beside the window are all that are needed to put you in a good mood. Part of the joy of traveling is also finding familiar scenes on the other side of the world.
For example, we made this outfit in 1992. You might call it workwear. People used to wear it to go and nurse wounded soldiers after the war. They were also worn to gatherings in the big city of Koprivnica. It was an everyday outfit. But this is a really traditional ceremonial outfit.
What this old woman has just said suddenly reminds me that just 20 years ago, war was a daily reality here. As such, the peaceful, quiet life of this young girl and her grandmother takes on a whole new dimension.
Every village here has its own dress. This is the traditional dress for our village of Hlebine, with the skirt, the waistcoat, the blouse, and the scarf. It's our traditional costume.
Lepa ti je frizura, lepa ti je kosa.
With just 1,400 inhabitants, Hlebine has had a 99% Croatian population since the war in former Yugoslavia. Like all the villages around here, the economy is based on agriculture, and the locals are firmly attached to their traditions and cultural identity.
We would often dance at weddings or celebrations. People used to socialize a lot more than they do now. There were people who played the accordion on Saturdays in the village. We go out into the street. We dance and sing outside the houses. It was very joyful, and the village musicians played the music.
Inside the houses, people are getting ready for the party, with rehearsals and various preparations of a potentially culinary nature. Folk traditions are still taken very seriously here and remain a symbol of Croatian national identity. Each region has its own festivals, gatherings, and traditional songs. It's an occasion to get out their embroidered costumes and to sing about the good old days they are determined to continue.
All these songs talk about simple things. They talk about people's lives, their romantic feelings, and love in general. They talk about the Podravina region, the nature, the houses, the hills, and all kinds of other things. All these traditions are handed down from generation to generation. It happens during weddings and parties, while we are plucking the geese or harvesting the corn. We sang and danced during all those occasions. That's how I learned. Now it's impossible. TV has destroyed it all. My youth. All this reminds me of my youth. I'm still full of the joy of living, and I think I could still dance despite my old age. But it's not easy for us old ladies.
There are already so many things I'd like to understand, starting with this local naive art, which can be found here at the celebration and almost everywhere in Hlebine. But this is only the beginning of my journey. This village and its inhabitants have a lot of surprises in store. For the time being, I have met someone who can explain this region and its artists who paint on glass.
Sad pogledajte oko sebe, pa ćete vidjeti.
If you look around and compare this region to others, you will immediately notice the special care taken with the agriculture. Not a single field is left to grow wild, and every square meter is carefully tended. This unique relationship with the earth can be seen somewhere in every naive painting. Naive art was born from this close link with nature. When Ivan Generalic, one of the region's most famous painters, had an exhibition in 1953, a French art critic said he was born from the earth. Everything is born from the earth. The forests, prairies, fields and corn, everything. The pasture land, the trees, the vines. Everything comes from the earth, and here the earth is something we respect and maintain a special relationship with. There is something sacred about that relationship.
I must confess that I haven't yet grasped the sacred nature of this relationship. But these ideas have suggested a way for me to continue my exploration. I'm going to take a closer look at this nature. When faced with the unknown, appearances are often deceptive. A tree may hide the forest, but the forest itself hides many mysteries. Here, nature gives rise to an unexpected imaginary world.
Hello. Ovdje bilo okej, a? To bi moralo biti vredno. Samo da vidimo izbližega. I to je tu. To je to. Nešto gore. To je to. Točno to.
Tako.
To je v redu.
I znači,
Znaš kaj?
tam je budemo.
Sad ju mi vdrapili i ona bude tu padala. Tu bu opala.
Tu, no, tu.
I dok ona padne, onda ju mi sekirama čehamo
Tako.
na 100 dijelova
I to je
dok
to.
se ne raspadne sklizuma.
Sada je ništa.
Još malo, rešimo ju, zdrapimo ju v pizdu materinu, padne, strgamo sve, idemo gore pit. Jebenica, frende! To!
Sad se vidi kulka. To.
It's early spring, and most of the cultivated fields are full of rapeseed, corn, and wheat. Watching this tractor driving through the countryside at dawn, I'm struck by how much it reminds me of a certain French countryside I know so well. It's sometimes strange when you realize how similar things are, even when you're miles from home. I had a feeling that by getting closer to nature, I'd have some surprising encounters. I like these mysterious places that inspire the imagination. If you know how to listen to it, nature always offers some moments of artistic inspiration, as it does for this man and this block of wood.
I've always sculpted in one form or another. When I was younger, I liked to whittle with my pocket knife. My uncle is a famous sculptor, and when I was young, I spent a lot of time at his house, watching him work, and I found it fascinating. Maybe that's why I began to do sculpture. I learned from him, for sure. But there's also a family legacy of some sort. My grandfather was a cart maker, so he worked with wood. My aunt was a painter. So there's an artistic tradition in the family, as there often is here in Hlebine. I chose wood and sculpture. This special shape that you find in sculptures stems from the fact that country life has always been very harsh. The work is very physical, and you often find it in both paintings and sculpture, these people who work hard, in whom you can feel the harshness of rural life. That's where the special forms you find in naive art come from. You don't show things exactly as they are in reality. For example, the feet or hands are often much larger compared to the rest of the body, to show the fact that it's through the hard work that they do that these people are able to live and to create. We want to show just how hard life is here.
Ko je zapravo taj naziv prvi dao, to bi moglo se reći i izvorno.
I don't know who first used the word naive, but I think local or primitive may be better suited. My uncle and others started out by representing their environment as they saw it, by showing the work people did every day. In my work, I observe those around me too, and I represent them through wood. In that sense, then yes, it's naive art, because everyone produces it through their own skills and according to their own representation of the world, without having learned anything at school. Naive art is more like original art or local art.
I to prenosim na drvo I to je u biti taj oblik. S obzirom da je kod nas poznato naivno slikarstvo, također I kip...
Given that there are naive painters, one might say that there are naive sculptors. Indeed, none of us learned our art in an academic sense. We are self-taught, and we took our knowledge from our forefathers. It was handed down from generation to generation. There's a direct connection between nature and sculpture. In painting, it's perhaps less obvious because you use glass and color. But with sculpture, the link is clear. Sometimes, the sculptor has even planted the very tree he is going to sculpt. I do that with fruit trees, pears or hazelnut. The tree is planted in an accessible place, and one day it might be cut down, dried out, and then worked up into a sculpture.
I've been walking in the countryside for a few days now, and I've noticed there is no large-scale livestock farming. The only animals I've encountered are in farmyards and are clearly there for domestic use. Here, the farmers mainly work on the land. And despite an increase in mechanization, everybody still works with his or her bare hands. The attention paid to tending the crops no doubt explains the abundance and quality of the produce to be found in the market in Podravina, a few kilometers from Hlebine. This mercantile approach to nature is distracting me from my mission. I need some spirituality. I remember my magical encounter with a cimbalom when I first arrived in Croatia. Perhaps it is linked to the naive art that is found in this region. I know there's a strong relationship between this instrument and this part of Europe. I'd like to find out more. I'm leaving the town and heading for the hills to meet a cimbalom maker.
Because of my work as a wine grower, I can't spend as much time as I'd like with my cimbalom, although I do try to play at least for 2 hours a day. When I'm heading to the vines to work, the first thing I do is to prepare myself by playing some music. After that, I can start my work as a wine grower. It's the same every day for 2 hours. I make these instruments because I can see that young people are interested in them. Since 1996, I have trained 13 apprentices in this art. That's unique in Croatia because there isn't even a single music school where you can learn to play the instrument. To make an instrument like this one, working like I'm doing today for 2 or 3 hours, it takes around a month. This includes a week during which I try out the instrument. I see how it sounds, how it responds. No instrument leaves the workshop without that week of tests or without me validating it.
It's difficult to date the cimbalom, the earliest traces of which go back to the lands around the Euphrates in Iraq in around 3000 BC. It's an instrument without borders that traveled across Mesopotamia to Central Europe. During its voyage, each country and even each region gave it a different name. These days, a cimbalom maker produces instruments to suit himself, depending on his own aesthetic and musical criteria. As such, each piece is unique.
I've noticed that if I don't play a little every day, like someone who has to take medicine if they're sick, if I forget to play my instrument, I miss it. I don't feel so good. It does take up my free time, but playing music inspires me. It gives me hope. And I feel like I'm the man I should be, thanks to the cimbalom. Without it, I wouldn't be that man. I love this instrument. I look at it, and I've lived with it since I was very young. We know each other very well now. It's my friend, and I'm its.
The musicality and length of the notes connects me instantly with nature. As if drawn by something, I return to the forest, looking for new encounters.
Kad radiš drvom, jednostavno
When I'm working with wood, it's a little like going back to my childhood. I have this indescribable feeling of euphoria because I know something good and beautiful will come out of it. I like the idea that children will adopt my toys and learn to play again. All my toys are unique, as are my hats, and all my different creations.
Yeah. When he...
A ja sam pretvorio se u dete.
To be honest, I've turned into a child.
Pokušavam vratiti izgubljeno
Yes,
vrijeme.
I've gone back to my childhood, and now I'm trying to make up for lost time
Da pokažem djeci
and show today's children who are taken up with computers and video games
kompjuterom i
how we used to play.
A to je šteta da se
I think it's a shame to forget how we used to have fun before there were computers or even electricity.
kompjuterom nije bilo struje, nije bilo ničega.
This man, half druid, half magician, is deeply poetic. Nature inspires him. It feeds his creativity. Thanks to nature, he imagines and creates poetry by whittling. Right now, I'm close to understanding the power of this nature that knows how to commune with creative spirits. Are the children of Hlebine equally influenced by this ambient creativity?
Nalazimo se u Hlebinama, ovo je područna škola koja ima 8 razreda.
We are in Hlebine. This is an annex school with 8 classes, which has been here for over 100 years. Before, it was an independent school in its own right, but now it's only an annex because of the small number of students here. There are around 20 students per class and 100 in total.
Stotinjak djece u cijeloj školi.
To dojam stvara na vas. Crvena, zelena. Na što vas asocira? Odlično. Na ljubav, crvena, zelena. Petra.
Zelena, crvena, plava, žuta.
Žuta. Sunce, sreća. Odlično.
Da, to ima.
Yes, I think the students here have a kind of predisposition. I'm not an art teacher, but I talk a lot with the staff, and one teacher who came from the region of Vukovar told me something very interesting. He said he was surprised by how well they handle color, by how they sometimes combine certain colors in an original way. Yes, he noticed the difference with other regions in Croatia.
Pokraj žute i crvene koja bi te se činila još izražajnija? Rozna. Ne samo znači plava, da. Ali i ovaj dio nisi završio.
Na zidovima su slike naivnih slikara iz
You can see naive paintings by local artists everywhere here, on the walls of the school. They were all donated to us, and most of these painters went to school here. But the exceptional thing is this mural painted in 1956 by Generalic while he was teaching here. It was as if he made it his mission to decorate a whole wall in the entrance hall, and he wanted to show the school seen from outside. I think it's the only mural he painted. His other works are oil on glass. It's his only mural.
Until now, every time I've had a question, nature, like a wise man one consults in moments of doubt, has given me an answer in the shape of an encounter. I return unremittingly to nature, knowing it will help me once again. This time, I'm heading for the banks of the Drava. The atmosphere is immediately very different. The water dampens noise and time, and I float off into a daydream. The morning mist dissipates on this river that marks the boundary between Hungary and Croatia. Nature makes no distinction between the two banks, and with a strange feeling of freedom, I drift from one country to the next.
When I need to take a break from painting, I come here to get some fresh air and to relax on the banks of the Drava. I've always felt close ties to the river. My parents and my family have always lived along the Drava River. First in the village of Komatnica, before settling here in Hlebine. When I was young, I'd often spend hours fishing with my uncle on the river. Those things stay with you and mark you, for sure. The Drava exerts a kind of fascinating attraction that means you either love it or hate it. But if you really love it, you miss it. When I'm painting for 4 or 5 days in a row, I miss it. So I'll come here to walk for an hour or two.
kao teme, općenite teme, nema, ali kroz sve moje slike...
I'd say that the main subject of my paintings is the region of Podravina, with its lush nature and all the life that surrounds me here. Yes, that's what you see in my painting.
To se provlači kroz sve slike. Onda teme se kako dolaze, tako se smještaju u...
The themes introduce themselves into this natural environment in an impromptu way. But the Drava and the surrounding countryside are almost always included in my work.
Baš i nema nekakve...
I wouldn't say there are any mythological subjects in my paintings, although there are some stories the old folk tell about fairies around the Drava, or other mysterious characters that occasionally inspire me.
U biti priče koje su nekad nama pričali stari ljudi, to se prenosi iz koljena na koljeno, onda negdje i tu se izvuče nekakva inspiracija u datom trenutku. 084805. I onda na skici se rešavaju oni dijelovi, znači kompozicija.
I start with the sketch, and that's how I resolve any questions about the composition or perspective. This drafting process represents about 70% of the work involved.
To je 70%. Dalje, kada je skica završena, onda se ide na bojanje stakla. To je
When the sketch is finished, the next stage is coloration on the sheet of glass. This is the longest stage. Everything depends on the complexity of the motif, of the season being painted, whether it's summer or winter. A 50 by 60 centimeter painting takes 10 to 15 days to complete. This is when the artist harmonizes the colors by combining warm and cool colors. When all the details have been added, I move on to the final stage, which is the background. It's only afterwards that the painter can see the results of his 2 weeks of coloring. And he often thinks that he can always do better.
Unlike painting on oils, where the background is painted first before focusing on the details, when painting on glass, the process is reversed. The brush first attacks the details before moving on to surfaces and solid areas.
Da bi dalje nekakav uzor za mene kao...
My influence. I must confess that my real role model, as a man, as an artist, someone whose career I really admire, is Mio Kovačić. He has taken a completely different direction to many other naive artists, and a much more difficult one. That's probably why he's a real model for me.
Mio Kovačić has been painting since the age of 10. A recognized master who is admired by all the artists in the region, he is the last representative of the Ivan Generalic generation. He has enjoyed an international reputation for many years, and his paintings are included in many collections around the world.
To baš je karakteristično ovo v Podravini, ovo naivno.
Naive painting around here is definitely characterized by the region of Podravina. Without nature, there is nothing. I really love nature. I'm often outside observing it. I love it all. The flowers, the forest, the water. There is a lot of water here. It's marshland. There are lots of birds too, and the river where I often go fishing. I often go out with my sketchbook to draw. Without nature, there could be no painting.
Bez prirode nema slikanja. Pa znate kaj, ne mi baš to puno pomoglo.
I never had a guide or a teacher for my painting. I visited Generalic a few times, but I can't say I learned a lot in a half hour. I saw what he did, watched him work, and that was about it. You know, he was a peasant like me. He couldn't have really taught me. I remember him telling me, paint what you see, buy a farm, and paint. There has never really been an art school in Hlebine, like they say. It was the local school.
Može. Ako hoćemo to tako definirati, može.
Of course, naive art can be taught. Just like anyone can learn to write, anyone can learn to draw. But knowing how to write doesn't make you a writer. Just like knowing how to paint doesn't make you a painter.
Ali svaki čovjek ne postane niti književnik, a tako niti svaki slikar ne postane umjetnik.
Dobro, mislim
Good things, quality things last. Things that aren't, don't last over time. That's always been the way. The work of a good artist will last. But there aren't that many, of course. The little light that shines on naive art in this region hasn't gone out just yet.
As I discovered these people in their land, I finally felt the link that unites them. And naive art is the most tangible expression of that link. Of all the arts, this is probably one of the most modest for talking about life and nature. Naive art is about accepting to pay homage to nature by looking at it through the eyes of a child. Here, in Hlebine, people have always been farmers, laboring hard on the land to grow food for their survival. Until one day, the miracle of nature transformed the farmers into artists, giving rise to a local style that is recognized around the world. I'm excited to go meet it.